ready to get started this morning, if you will, turn with me to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31. Deuteronomy, chapter 31. As we continue to go through this world that we're living in, and we continue to look for direction and look for guidance from God, we need to look just throughout His Word and continue to remember where we can get good directions from. Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 6 through 8, it says, "Be strong of good courage, do not fear, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord your God, He is the one who goes with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you." Then Moses called Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, "Be strong and of good courage. For you must go with this people to the land which the Lord has sworn to their fathers to give them. And you shall cause them to inherit it. And the Lord, He is the one who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you. Do not fear nor be dismayed." When we read this, we see that Joshua was about to do what Moses was not going to be able to do. He was about to go into a land where they were promised, where the Israelites were promised to be able to go to and to live in, but he was told where to get his directions from. And he was told how to handle it, where to go, where to be, where to get the courage from, and where to get the guidance and the strength from. Have we ever looked for guidance? We raise children, we need to have guidance every day. We raise children, grandchildren, whatever it might be, we need guidance every day. If we walk the walk that we are trying to walk, we need guidance every day. But have you ever used a GPS for directions? We went last year, just about this time, we went to Louisville to take the twins to tour the University of Louisville, and we went to go tour that. Oddly enough, in bigger cities, they change streets all the time. I think it's because the people that live there get used to the streets, so they've got to change them to make it to where that they, oh, hey, it's a new direction. But as we were going there, that GPS system that we had in our car, as we got ready to go over this road, and as it tells us, hey, turn left right here, and we turn left, and as we start over this, Mackenzie's like, "Dad, we got to turn right here." And I looked at her and I said, "We are in a Ford Explorer. We are not in a Jeep. I don't think that this Ford Explorer is going to fare too well jumping off this 10-foot overpass. Just don't think it's going to work too good for us." I said, "There's no exit for this overpass. We're going to have to drive over this road and then reconnect and get back onto that road." But she looked at me and she's like, "Dad, we got to go that way." I said, "Pull it up on your phone. Your phone would have a more up-to-date GPS." Google did not even know that that bridge had been made. Google Maps had no idea that that was there, because Google Maps told us the exact same thing that our car was telling us. So it was a relatively new overpass for that area of the University of Louisville. When we went to, we took I-69 up through Indiana not too long ago. Our car and our phones were telling us what roads that we were going over. But it didn't show that I-69 existed yet. I-69 has been there for a little while, but it didn't know it existed, because it was telling us, you need to turn left now, you need to turn right now, you need to turn left now, you need to turn right now. You ever heard it say recalculating? Oh, that's a lovely feeling, right? When we're driving down the road and it says recalculating, because I don't know where you're at and you really don't know where you're at, so I'm trying to figure out a new way for you to go. But GPS systems have to be recalibrated every once in a while. They have to be uploaded, new directions, new guidance, and everything has to be uploaded into their system. They have to be redone. We have systems that we use in our work. It was funny because with our John Deere system, you would push a button and tell it, this is level. Where I'm sitting at is level. You'd push a button and it would tell you to drive up, turn 180 degrees, come back to the exact same spot you're sitting in, and push the button again. Because it wanted to get its yaw and everything else, wanted to get it, make sure that its little gyroscope that's in the middle was exactly right for what you considered level. So you would spin it around and you would recalibrate the TCM, the calibration monitor on the inside, and you would redo it and everything. So you would go out and you spin around, and people would probably look at you that had no idea what you're doing and think, boy, this guy's really lost it because he's just spinning in circles and just keeps turning around and spinning in circles. But they had to be recalibrated. The one thing that you need to understand is this word never has to be recalibrated. It never has to do a recalculating. It never has to redo those things. The thing about it is this word is a word for us even today. From the beginning till now, it is still on the mark for what we need. The problem is that we in the world want to get farther and farther and farther away from it. It just continues to keep going another direction. You wake up in the morning, you're like, how far can we get away today? And it's all of a sudden you go to bed and you're like, well, okay, we can go that far today. But the world is going to continue to get farther and farther away, and it needs to be recalculated. And oddly enough, there's coming a day where the world is going to be recalibrated. It's going to be redone. If you will, with me, turn to Exodus chapter 3. We'll read about Moses and the burning bush for just a minute here. Exodus chapter 3. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock back of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. So he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not being consumed. Then Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn. So when the Lord saw that he turned aside to look, God called to him from the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And what does Moses say? Here I am. Then he said, do not draw near to this place. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place you are standing is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. Fast forward down to verse number 11. Moses said, because we're getting the guidance here, Moses is getting his guidance. Verse number 11, but Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? So he said, I will certainly be with you. And this shall be a sign to you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain. Then Moses said to God, indeed, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? And God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. Verse 4, Moses hears who he is, and he says, I'm here. Here I am. Verse 11, you see where he's not ready to do what this is, and he's not sure how to do it. Verse 12, God tells him, I'll be with you. Verse 13 and 14, he gives him the direction of who is sending him, because he is the I am of us. He is the I am of direction. He is the I am of love. He is the I am of his people. He is the I am when we are all alone. He is the I am when we are lost. He is the I am when all else is crazy around us. He is the I am, the one who we can count on no matter what happens. And he is the I am, the light in the darkness that surrounds you every single day. He is the one that has sent his son to come and die for you and I. He is the one. He is the I am. As a matter of fact, later on in John chapter 8, we see where that Jesus says that I am. And what happens when Jesus says that I am? Flip there and find out. John chapter 8. The Jewish people, or the Jewish leaders, are having a hard time with him. They're throwing a fit with him. They're getting very upset with him. And verse number 52, the Jews said to him, "Now, we know that you have a demon. Abraham is dead, and the prophets, and you say, if anyone keeps my word, he shall never taste death. Are you greater than our father Abraham, who is dead? And the prophets are dead. Who do you make yourself out to be?" Jesus answered and says, "If I honor myself, my honor is nothing. It is my Father who honors me, of whom you say that he is your God. Yet you have not known him, but I know him. And if I say I do not know him, I shall be a liar like you. But I do know him and keep his word. Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad." Then the Jews said to him, "You are not yet 50 years old, and you have seen Abraham." Jesus said to them, "Most assuredly I say to you, before Abraham was, I am." Now see, they knew that phrase. They knew that I am. They knew what he was saying as soon as he said, "I am." Because as soon as he said that "I am," he was saying he was God in the flesh. He was saying who he was. He was saying who gave him the power. He was telling them who he was. And the problem was they didn't want to hear it. You know why they didn't want to hear it? Because right here is the reason why they didn't want to hear it. Because they did not know what was going on. They didn't know him. They didn't know that God the Father sent his Son and was standing right before them at that point in time. They lost their direction. They were waiting for a great miraculous thing to happen, and it had already happened. The problem was they were wanting not to give up everything that they had. They were having to get rid of everything that was so great to them, because he came so humbly and so small. So here he is right here, and he says this, that I am. Before Abraham, I am. So what did they have to do? Immediately they believed that he was what? He was blaspheming. So immediately they did what they felt like they needed to do. Read verse number 59. It says, "Then they took up stones to throw at him." But what did Jesus do? He did one of those miraculous things where he just left. He just disappeared. It says that he went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, and so passed by. Who else can do that? Who else can stand right before you and just slide right past? God the Son was standing before them, and they picked up rocks to throw at them. Think how they must have felt. They picked up these rocks to get ready to throw at him, and where'd he go? He was right there. Where'd he go? Do you think any of them at that point in time that had a rock in their hand sat back and went, "Wait a minute, hold on, maybe, just maybe"? There are so many times in our life that we lose our sense of direction. You ever been in a foggy road, you're traveling down a road, and I had a piece of road up home that I traveled all of my life. When I say all of my life, this was the road that we took to go to my grandparents' house. This is a road that I drove all the time to go home after I moved out of the house. This is a road that I knew like the back of my hand. And it's straight. So, except for one little jig-jog curve in it. I know this road really well. It was so foggy one night, I had seriously lost my sense of direction. I kept looking at my speedometer and looking at the amount of miles that I went, and I thought, man, I've got to be getting close to my house by now. I've got to be there. The road should be here somewhere. I couldn't see past the end of my hood, literally. It was so foggy, I couldn't even see past the end of my hood. I was driving about 10 miles an hour, and I kept driving. I looked at the clock, and I was like, I've got to be here. And then all of a sudden, these bright lights show up. And I realized to myself at that point, uh-oh, I went about 8 miles too far. Literally, 8 miles too far. Because I knew I was at the state highway, at the intersection of the state highway. Because right at the intersection of my road and State Highway 1 is this huge lit up area and everything, and they've got it real lit up. And so I knew I had traveled about 8 miles too far. So I knew all I had to do was do what? Turn around, drive about 8 miles, and turn left. There should be a road at about 8 miles. So I go back home real nice and slow. And here's the most amazing part. The whole time I'm praying, God, I just pray that I don't sit here and drive all night long. I just don't want to drive all night long trying to find my house. I am lost as an Easter egg right now. I really am. I get that way when I go to Carlisle County sometimes. But I'm lost as an Easter egg. I don't know where I'm at. God, I just help me find that way, because that little jig-jog place that I was going to have to drive, it was in that little part of the road. God, just help me. I literally, right before I get to that little spot where it kind of makes a little jig-jog, all of a sudden it was like the fog disappeared. There's only one thing I could do at that point in time is thank you. Thank you. And it was perfectly clear all the way to the road to my house. And I turned left, went down the road about a quarter mile, turned right into my driveway. Who else causes things like that to happen? Everybody go, well, that was just coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence. I don't believe in that. It was God that moved at that point in time that said, I hear you, child, so let me blow it out of the way. Let me move it out of the way so you can find your way home. When we walk through life, we all the time will find ourselves in spots or in wrong roads or wrong places. But how do we react in those loss of directions? Do we sit and smack the dash trying to get the GPS system to act up and do right? Or do we stop for just a second and say, God, I have no idea where I'm at? Do we go to our GPS? Do we go to where we need to be? Are we actually even picking it up and saying, God, I need you right now to show me the direction? Because I'm as lost as an Easter egg right now. We have family members right now that are lost. We have family members that we need to be giving direction to. That we need to be helping them have direction. And this is the direction. Hey, so that's not going the way. Well, let me give you this. Let me find this. Let me find you some direction. Let me find you some help. Because the whole time that we ask that direction from that GPS system, that's somebody that's got it all set up and got it all mapped out, and hopefully he knew what he was doing when he mapped it out. But God mapped out everything for us. And he knows when we get on the wrong road. And he'll do everything he can to try and get us directed back where we need to be. Let me get you back on the right path. Let me get you in the right direction. He knows where we need to be at all times. When we see this where Jesus was saying to the Jewish people that I am. And as soon as they heard that I am, they knew from back in the day that that was who they were told, who he was. So they knew that phrase. Before Abraham, I am. But the thing about it is right now, do we know where we're going right now? I promise you, if you walk outside right now, this world right now is looking at itself and saying, I don't know where we're going right now. I don't know where we're going. I'm not going to get into the political side of it. I'm just not going to. But everybody around right now, if you walk outside right now and you go, can you believe? They're all going to look at you and go, yeah, I don't know what's going on. Where are we going to go right now? Where should we be going right now? We should be turning back and saying, hold on, let me go back into this word and I'll give you some guidance and I'll give you some help and I'll tell you about what he told me. Because he told me he would never leave me, he'd never forsake me, he'd never lead me wrong, he'd never guide me in a bad spot. When we find ourselves with no answer, nowhere to go, we have to be able to turn back to him and say, I need you now. I need you right now. Because what the doctor's saying, what this one's saying, what my boss is saying, what the political leaders are saying, it makes no sense. But I know you can make sense of it, God. I know you can give me the direction that I need right now, God. I know that you can help me get back to where I need to be. And I know you can get me back on track. I read and listened to some different things this week. And about the middle of the week, I started getting texts and different things from different ones. But it kept coming back. And everything I kept listening to from different things that I listened to or different things that I read, it kept coming back. I'll never leave you and I'll never forsake you. So many times we'll feel like we're completely all alone. We'll completely feel set apart. If the enemy hasn't tried that the best he could try in the last year, I don't know what else he's tried. Because right now, for some odd reason, I don't know why it is, and I wasn't going to bring this up today, but I'm going to now. For some odd reason, it's okay to go to the mall. It's okay to go to Walmart. It's okay to go to wherever you want to go. But it's not okay to sit inside this building. God forbid you sit in here because you might catch something in here. You don't need to be at church. You don't need to be at school. You don't need to be where leadership needs to be. You don't need guidance right now. You need to stay home. And trust me, I'm from the government. I'll help you. I believe it was Ronald Reagan that really said that. It said that the scariest words there ever was uttered is, I'm here to help and I'm from the government. I finally found that because my dad always said it and everything. I was like, where did he pick that up from? That was Ronald Reagan. Okay, well, the scariest words are very true. Because where we need to be asking for help from is from here, from God. We need to be asking for that help. We need to be asking for that guidance. We need to be looking for His GPS. We need to be looking for Him to tell us where do we need to go. God, I'm kind of scared right now. What do I need to be? But for some odd reason, the government's told us don't go here. Good Lord, I couldn't imagine being in California where you were told, don't even think about it. Chicago was the same way. They told them, don't even go. Don't you dare go. You can go to Walmart, though, because you need food. You can go to the mall because, well, I don't know, you need to walk around for a while and get some exercise. But don't go to church because that's a scary place. Does it make sense, y'all? It doesn't make any sense to me, but it makes sense in a sense that the enemy wants you to go over here and stay over here by yourself. Because if you're by yourself, I don't have to worry about you. I read this thing, and I'll end with this. I'm talking about needing God's direction, God's help, God's guidance. We get that from each other and from His Word. So I read this week. Pastor went to go see somebody that had not been at church for a long time. Walked into his house, must not have been around COVID because, but walked into his house, sat down in front of his fireplace, had a nice fire roaring. And he walked up and he sat down. They never uttered a word. Neither of them ever uttered a word. And he took a fire poker. Anybody ever mess with a fire poker? And he poked at the fire for a little bit and he stuck it back in its little holder. Then he grabbed a hold of a set of tongs and he reached in there and grabbed an ember and he set it down on the brick in front of the fireplace. And they just sat there for a while, never uttered a word. After a while, that ember began to turn black. Because why? It was away from the flame. It slowly started to turn black and started to lose its fire. Pastor reached over, grabbed the tongs after a while, picked it up, stuck it back into the fire, hung the pieces of the tongs up, and as he turned to walk away, guess what happened to the ember? It caught back and it started glowing again. And it was burning again. The man started bawling. He said, I'll see you at church Sunday morning. The pastor said, God be the glory, and walked out the door. Actually, Steve Holder is the one that posted that the other day, and I read it. But that's it today. Because the enemy today wants you to be all by yourself, away from all the other flames. He wants you to be out, spread with fear, spread with concern, and scared to death right now. But we've got to hear God's word. We've got to be able to know, hey, I've got your back. Hey, I'm standing in prayer with you. Hey, I'm going to pray over that thing that you need right now. He's got to hear those things. We've got to be able to grow together, continue to spread the fire and to know that God's still moving, because at home when we're all by ourselves, we struggle with that fact. We start to lose God's direction. So today, if you're starting to wonder, am I lost right now? Am I lost? Maybe not necessarily just in the spiritual sense, am I lost, or I not know God, but maybe also maybe I took a wrong direction. Maybe I don't feel God like I used to. Maybe I don't sense God like I used to. Maybe I'm like the people before Jesus was born, where it just feels like God ain't talked in a while. If you're feeling that, number one place that you need to be is on your knees, and we need to pray with God right now and say, God, I need you right now. I need this sense of you right now. I need to know that I'm still close. Because this world and everything about it, looking for direction, is going to spin you the wrong direction. I know, I've been there, I've tried it, I did it. When I was about 16 years old, I thought, I'm going to follow the world. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to do that. That looks like so much fun. My mom, I had 6 older brothers and sisters that did the exact same thing. You'd have thought, hey, I make the comment in here all the time, I was pretty smart. I knew what not to do to make my parents mad because I had 6 better teachers. But when it came to that, I didn't follow their lead. I didn't follow their lead. Matter of fact, well, I did follow their lead. I went right to it. But the thing about it is that God all the time, I've got a better plan. I know what I want for you. We see that in Jeremiah 29:11, where I know the plans that I've laid for you. I know what I've got planned for you. That's not it. This is it. You've got to get to me. You've got to find whatever way it is to get to me and get here now. But instead, I wanted to go that way. That seemed more impressive. That seemed more, the wonderful story where the cow will cut his neck, literally leaning over the barbed wire fence trying to eat the grass outside after you spent thousands of dollars to make his grass on the inside so much better. God has done the most valuable thing that we could ever think of to make our lives so much better. He did that right there. He did that. He sent his only son to die on a cross for you and I, to take the sin of the world, the weight of that whole cross, and pack it and die on that cross. Over 300 pounds that cross weighed, and carried it all the way up, and finally got to the point where he couldn't carry it anymore and had to have some help. After he'd been beaten and crushed, he still carried it up the hill. He still did that for you and I. He still took that for you and I. So when we need direction, when we feel just a little bit lost, where are we going to? Because that world outside does not have the direction from you. As a matter of fact, they're just as lost as you would be, and they have no idea. As a matter of fact, if we try and follow that lead, we're going to be on the wrong path. So when the church starts to do things of the world, it scares me. Because we're starting to lose our direction. And I've seen a lot of churches do it. We could just adopt this, and that would make it so much, we could make people come in. We don't need more lost people teaching lost people. We need saved, sanctified, born again members. We need to be showing the world the way. Because this is the only book that hasn't had to be recalibrated. You can pick up a math book today, and it's totally different than the math book that I learned from, or Brother Jerry learned from, or anybody else in here has learned from. It's completely different. I thought 2 + 2 would always be 4, and there'd always be one way to get there. But for some odd reason now, there's new ways to get there. That changes. That doesn't. So when we start to look for direction, we need to look for direction to get redirected out of this. We need to be looking for God's direction today of what's going on out there and what we need to be doing, so we can lead others straight to Him. Because there's so many that are lost right now that are looking for answers. And that world outside doesn't have the answer. This does. This does. So if you're lost looking for direction, these altars and your knees are where they need to meet. And we need to be praying for God's direction. We need to be praying for God. We looked in the a little bit in the Sunday school lesson this morning, talking about being lost, being as far as whenever Simon looked at Jesus and said, I can't stand here in front of you. I'm a sinful man. There came a time in my life where I couldn't stand anymore because I was a sinful man, and I had to hit my knees and ask God to forgive me of all my sins. I had to look for His direction. We have to get that direction from God. And today is the best day to start. So if you're hearing this and you need that direction, and you need it to start today, look me up right now and I will help you get that direction. If you want to come up and pray after we get done praying, that's perfectly fine. If you want to go home and pray, okay. But right now is a great time. Because if you're lost and needing direction, now's the time to change. Brother Jerry, can you dismiss us in prayer?
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you most of all, dear God, for your word. We thank you, dear God, for your living word that you sent us through the life of Jesus Christ. We thank you, dear God, that He paid the price. He was born, died, and resurrected so that we would have an example, dear God, of the life that we could have if we reach out to you. Please be with all of these that have been mentioned today that were hurting from accidents and from health issues and different things. Dear God, we can't heal people, but we can lift their situations up to you. Please go with us this day as we go out and go back home. Protect us on the roads. Protect us, dear God, as our work in various places. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.